It happened during her company's anniversary party. I was running late, still dressed in business casual from a shift that had gone an hour too long. Some emergency, something about budgets, I don't even remember now. I just remember how I rushed. Skipped dinner, didn't change, didn't breathe, because she'd asked me to be there. Said it would mean a lot. Her company was celebrating 20 years, and she wanted me by her side. So I showed up. It was one of those rooftop venues downtown, the kind that tries too hard to be effortless. Everything was glowing. Soft golden lights wrapped around steel beams. People in sleek outfits clinked wine glasses while pretending not to talk about work. A live trio played low, moody jazz from behind glass panels. Waiters floated around like ghosts, balancing trays of hors d'oeuvres that looked more like tiny sculptures than food. I stepped in, straightened my shirt, and looked for her. First, I didn't see her. I checked near the catering table. She always loved the mini crab cakes, but nothing. I passed the dance floor, nodded at a few unfamiliar faces, and kept scanning. I didn't belong here. Not really. These weren't my people. I could already hear her voice in my head saying, "Just smile. Don't look like you're analyzing everyone." But then I saw her. She was perched at the bar, sitting on one of those tall stools that make everyone look a little more important than they are. Her back was to me, but I'd know that silhouette anywhere. The curve of her shoulders, the way she tucked her hair behind her ear when she laughed. I took a step closer, and that's when I saw him. The man next to her was relaxed, leaning in. White shirt, no tie, sleeves rolled to the elbows. Confident in the way that made you immediately suspicious. His body was angled toward her, one leg crossed over the other, and his hand was there, resting on her thigh, just there, like it belonged, like it had been there for a while. And she wasn't pulling away. They were sharing a drink. One glass between them. His fingers still on the stem when she brought it to her lips. I don't even remember what kind of drink it was. Something red. Something sweet. Something that felt too int asterisk mate. I stopped moving. My heart didn't speed up, it slowed down. Like the world had narrowed to a pinhole. She didn't see me at first. She was laughing. Smiling. She reached out to touch his shoulder as he said something close to her ear. She looked happy. And then she turned. Our eyes met. And in that moment, that single hollow second, I saw the shift. She froze, just for a beat, then pulled back slightly. Her smile faded, not out of guilt, but calculation. Her posture changed. Not alarmed, composed. She stood up slowly, adjusted her skirt, grabbed her clutch, and walked toward me like nothing had happened. "You're early," she said, brushing a curl off her shoulder. I checked my watch. "I'm late." She glanced back at the man, who was now conveniently facing the other way, then turned to me with a tight smile. "That's Michael. From marketing," she said. "He's just a friend." Her voice was light, dismissive, like she was scolding me for imagining things. "You looked close," I said quietly. She rolled her eyes. "You're being paranoid." The way she said it, cool, practiced, made something twist in my gut. Like this wasn't the first time she'd said those words. Like maybe I wasn't the only one she had to explain things to. "He had his hand on your leg," I said, keeping my voice level. She shrugged. "It wasn't like that. He was joking around." "You were drinking from the same glass." Her smile hardened. "Are you going to ruin the night over this?" And just like that, I was the problem. I was overreacting. I was being dramatic. I was embarrassing her, at her event. Then, as if she needed to cement the moment, she walked straight to the stage. The music had paused. Someone handed her a mic. She tapped it twice. "Hi everyone," she beamed. The crowd turned, all eyes on her. She scanned the room, briefly landing on me, then said, "Before we get back to the fun, I just want to say how lucky I am to work with such amazing people. You've made this place feel like home." A round of polite applause. Then she added, "And speaking of home, my husband's finally here." Heads turned toward me. Some clapped. A few looked confused. She continued, "You all know him. The guy who tracks receipts better than he tracks emotions." Laughter. Real laughter. Some people even clapped. A guy in the back gave a theatrical "oh." I didn't move. I didn't smile. I just stood there, my hands in my pockets, while she turned my marriage, into a joke. And in that moment, something broke. Not loudly, not all at once, but quietly, like ice cracking under your feet. 25 years. Shared homes. Shared losses. Birthdays. Holidays. Quiet mornings with coffee. All of it reduced to a punchline in front of a crowd sipping overpriced wine. I watched her hand the mic back like nothing had happened. I watched her walk back to the bar and give Michael a wink like the joke had landed just right. And in that moment, I realized something. She wasn't embarrassed. She wasn't hiding. She didn't think she'd done anything wrong. And maybe that was the worst part. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, the city noise humming outside the window, her side of the bed empty for the third night that week. She had said she was staying at her friend Nora's place, that they were having a girls' wine night after the event, right? I didn't ask questions. I didn't text to check in. I just stared at the ceiling fan as it rotated slowly above me. The soft were syncing with the churn of my thoughts. The party kept replaying in my mind, on a loop I couldn't turn off. Her laugh, his hand on her thigh, the wine glass, the way she turned the room against me with a single line. That joke. You all know my husband, the guy who tracks receipts better than he tracks emotions. They all laughed. She laughed. I didn't. It wasn't just the embarrassment. It was the ease. How natural it had felt for her to throw me under the bus for a cheap laugh. Like it wasn't the first time she'd done it. Like she'd been rehearsing that line. Waiting for the moment. And maybe, in some corner of my brain, I'd been waiting too, not for the joke, but for the collapse. For the moment the ground would finally give out beneath us. Because the truth is, this didn't start at that party. It started long before. Months, maybe. A year. It's hard to tell. Looking back, I can't find a clean beginning. Just fragments. Red flags I dismissed. Questions I talked myself out of asking. I remember when she started going to the gym again. Came out of nowhere. She'd never liked working out. Always said she preferred long walks, hiking trails, movement with a view, she used to call it. But suddenly, she was waking up at 6 a.m. Joining a HIIT class 5 days a week. Posting about it. New leggings. New water bottle. New playlist. I was proud of her at first. Said it was inspiring. Cheered her on. But then came the change. She started showering at the gym. Said it saved time. Said she didn't want to wake me up early getting ready at home. Her scent changed too. For 20 years, she hated strong perfumes. Said they gave her migraines. I'd stick to subtle colognes. Never anything too bold. She always said she loved the way I smelled after coffee. That it was more me than any bottle could be. But one night, she came home wearing something new. Spicy. Floral. Heavy. I asked her about it. She said it was a gift from a coworker. Some sample she'd gotten in a gift bag from a conference. I laughed it off. Made a dumb joke about getting free cologne at my next staff meeting. She didn't laugh back. Then there were the trips. Overnights, she called them. Quick turnarounds. San Diego. Chicago. One in Portland. All for conferences I wasn't invited to. All with blurry schedules and sudden returns. She used to tell me every detail when she traveled. Sent pictures of the hotel room, weird breakfasts, inside jokes from the team. Now I'd get a single text. Made it. Talk later. Sometimes I wouldn't hear from her for hours. Once an entire night. When I asked, she said the hotel Wi-Fi was spotty. She swore she left her charger at home. Swore she was just tired. That I was reading too much into it. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to believe her. Because believing her meant everything was still okay. That we were just busy. That life had just gotten in the way. That the silence between us was circumstantial, not personal. Not deliberate. But it didn't feel that way. She stopped kissing me on the way out. Stopped lingering at the door like she used to. She'd leave half-drunk coffee mugs in the sink and play music in the morning without thinking if I was still asleep. She didn't ask about my day anymore. When I told her things, she smiled politely, but her eyes wandered. She was there, but she wasn't. And the worst part? I adapted. I adjusted to the absence. I told myself we were both just tired. That marriage goes through seasons. That we were in a rough patch. That the fire fades, but the foundation holds. But I wasn't stupid. I noticed the phone. She never used to lock it. Now she changed her passcode twice in a month. Said it was because of a work security update. She started flipping it face down at dinner. Jumped whenever it buzzed. Laughed at messages and then turned serious when I asked who it was. Just Nora, she'd say. Sometimes it was Michael from marketing. He's hilarious. That name started showing up more. Michael. Michael with the perfect white shirt. The same one from the party. One night I was doing laundry and found a receipt in the pocket of her coat. A wine bar I'd never heard of. 2 glasses of Merlot, 1 appetizer. The date matched one of her late nights at the office. When I brought it up, she said it was a team outing. That Michael covered his part with cash. It made sense. But only if I wanted it to. And the thing is, I did. I wanted it to make sense. Because if it made sense, then it wasn't betrayal. It was just a misunderstanding, bad timing, stress, a slippery slope we could climb back up. But I think I knew. Deep down, I knew. I saw the way she looked at her phone and smiled. I saw the way she started humming again while getting ready. She used to do that when we were dating, when I was the one making her heart race. And I felt the shift. It wasn't just emotional. It was physical. Her body moved differently. She wore heels on weekdays. Got a new haircut she didn't even tell me about. Bought lingerie that never made an appearance at home. One night, she came home wearing a jacket that wasn't hers. Too big in the shoulders, smelled like someone else's cologne. She said she'd spilled coffee on her blouse and borrowed it from a coworker. Michael, of course. The fit. Barely. The next morning, it was gone. She said she returned it. No trace of it. No tag. Nothing. I didn't ask questions. I just stood in the kitchen staring at my cereal like a man trying to solve a riddle written in a language he used to know. That was 2 weeks before the party. And now, lying in bed, hearing the silence where her breathing should be, I felt like the world had shifted beneath my feet and I'd only just noticed. The truth wasn't hiding. It was staring me in the face. I just hadn't wanted to see it. Because seeing it meant accepting that I wasn't just losing her. I had already lost her. And maybe, just maybe, she'd been waiting for me to notice. So she could stop pretending. So she could stop lying. So she could finally walk out without looking like the villain. But that wasn't going to happen. Because now I saw everything. The late nights. The new perfume. The gym. The jokes at my expense. The silences. The passwords. The wine. The laughter. It was all part of the pattern. Pattern I didn't want to believe. But now I couldn't unsee it. And I wasn't going to pretend anymore. Not for her. Not for the illusion. Not even for myself. The undeniable truth didn't arrive with a warning. Came 4 days later, on an afternoon that wasn't supposed to matter at all. A meeting got canceled last minute. One of those calendar pings that usually irritates you, except this time it felt like a small gift. I shut down my laptop, grabbed my coat, and drove home earlier than planned. I remember thinking maybe we'd have lunch together. Maybe we'd talk. Maybe things could still be addressed before they became permanent. Her car wasn't in the driveway. That didn't surprise me. She'd been working remotely more often lately. But when I reached the front door, I noticed something off. It was unlocked. She never left it unlocked. I stepped inside and immediately heard music. Soft, familiar, coming from upstairs, from our bedroom. I stood there for a moment, keys still in my hand, listening. My heart wasn't racing. It felt strangely calm, like my body already knew what my mind was about to confirm. I walked up the stairs slowly. Each step creaked louder than it ever had before. The hallway smelled different too. Not bad, just unfamiliar. A mix of something citrusy and something deeper, masculine. I pushed open the bedroom door. The bed was messy. Not slept in messy. Rushed messy. Sheets tangled. pillows on the floor, her throw blanket shoved halfway off the mattress. And the smell, cologne, not mine. It clung to the air like it didn't belong there, because it didn't. The bathroom door was closed, but I could hear the shower running. Steam curled out from beneath the frame. I didn't say a word. I didn't move. I just stood there, staring at the bed where 25 years of marriage had apparently been reduced to a temporary inconvenience. Then the water shut off. A moment later, the bathroom door opened. He stepped out wearing nothing but a towel. Michael, the same man from the party, the same white shirt confidence, now stripped down to something smaller, vulnerable, exposed. He froze when he saw me, his face drained of color. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. For a second, neither of us moved. Two men staring at each other in a room that used to be sacred. Then I heard her. She came out behind him, wrapped in one of our towels, hair damp, face pale the moment she saw me. There were no words. None were needed. Everything I had suspected, everything I had denied, everything I had carefully avoided naming. It was all there, in our home, in our bed. I didn't yell. I didn't curse. I didn't ask how long or why or whether she loved him. I didn't need answers anymore. I turned around and walked out of the room. I grabbed a duffel bag from the closet, threw in clothes without looking. Socks, shirts, jeans. I left my wedding ring on the dresser without thinking about it. She stood in the doorway watching me, frozen like a statue that had just realized it was being observed. "Please," she said finally. That was it. Just one word. I didn't respond. I walked past Michael without acknowledging him. He pressed himself against the wall like he was afraid I might do something. I didn't even look at him. I walked downstairs, out the front door, into the afternoon sunlight that felt too bright for what had just happened. I drove without knowing where I was going. She didn't call that night. Not once. 2 days later, I got a text. "Are you coming back? We need to talk." No apology. No explanation. Just logistics. Then another message. "I messed up, but it's not what you think." I stared at the screen for a long time. It was exactly what I thought. And then came the final blow. Michael called me. I didn't answer at first. Let it ring. Let it stop. Then he tried again. I picked up. He sounded panicked. Rambling. Said he didn't mean for things to get complicated. Said feelings just happened. Then he told me something she hadn't. He was married. His wife had found out. She was filing for divorce. His life was unraveling, and now he wanted damage control. He actually asked me to keep it between us. That was the moment it fully sank in. This wasn't just a betrayal. It was a chain reaction. My wife hadn't just cheated on me. She helped destroy another family too. And she did it without hesitation. In our bed. In our home. Like it was nothing more than a temporary arrangement. I hung up the phone and sat there in silence. There was nothing left to save. Only things left to accept. And I finally did. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything, punch a wall, demand answers. The only sound I made was the zipper on my bag as I packed and left. There was no goodbye. No scene. Just silence. And the silence felt louder than any fight we'd ever had. That night, I drove aimlessly until I ended up in front of my brother Nate's place on the west side. I texted him from the car. He came to the door barefoot, rubbing his eyes like he'd been napping. He didn't ask questions. Just opened the door and nodded toward the spare room. That's the kind of guy Nate is. I crashed there, ate toast, sat on his couch with his dog curled up next to me like it could tell I was unraveling. I didn't talk. Not at first. Not about her. Not about what I'd walked into. But Nate knew. He didn't push. He just sat with me, letting the silence be something that didn't have to be filled. That's what I needed most, space to exist without explaining. 2 days passed. Then my phone buzzed. Her name lit up the screen. "Are you coming back? We need to talk." Not, "I'm sorry." Not, "I messed up." Just a request for me to return. Like I'd stepped out to grab groceries and forgot to bring the milk. I didn't reply. Hours later, another message came. "I messed up, but it's not what you think." That one made me laugh. Not a real laugh. The kind that sounds like it belongs in a room with shattered glass and a broken mirror. I stared at that sentence for a long time. Not what I think. I walked in on her. In our bedroom. With him. There were no mental gymnastics left to do. There was no other version of the truth. It was exactly what I thought. The next day, I got a phone call from a number I didn't recognize. Michael. He sounded nervous. Like someone caught between desperation and damage control. He didn't apologize. Not at first. He didn't even sound guilty. He sounded scared. Said his wife had found out. Said she'd kicked him out. That she was already talking to lawyers. That he was losing everything. Then he had the nerve to ask me, with genuine, pleading sincerity, to keep it between us. Said he didn't want things to get messier than they had to be. That this whole thing got out of hand. I asked him one question. Did my wife ever tell you she was married? He paused. Then said, at first. No. But I figured it out. That was enough. I hung up. My hands were shaking. Not with rage, but with the weight of how far things had gone. This wasn't just infidelity. It was collateral damage. 2 marriages torn apart. 2 lives unraveled by choices that had clearly stopped feeling like mistakes a long time ago. The next morning, she showed up. At my brother's place. She knocked like she had a right to be there. Wore that same oversized hoodie she used to steal from me. The one she said made her feel safe. The one that smelled like our early years. She looked tired. Pale. Not like someone who'd been crying. Like someone who'd run out of things to cry about. I opened the door and didn't say anything. She didn't smile. Didn't ask if she could come in. She just said, "Can we talk?" I stepped aside. She sat on the edge of the couch, hands clasped tight, like she was bracing for a storm that had already passed. "I made a mistake," she said. I didn't respond. She looked up at me, eyes glassy, mouth trembling. "I didn't mean for it to go this far." I stood in the doorway, arms crossed, feeling like a stranger in my own skin. Then she said the thing I'd been waiting for, the thing I thought might change something. "Can't we fix this?" And all I could do was stare, because in that moment, I didn't see my wife. I saw the woman who leaned into another man at a party and called me paranoid. The woman who used a microphone to turn my marriage into a joke. The woman who didn't call the night I left. Who waited days to say anything. Who didn't even try to stop me from walking out with a duffel bag full of clothes and a hollowed-out chest. I saw someone who had turned my pain into entertainment. Someone who had rewritten our story without telling me she was starting a new chapter. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just said, "No." Her face broke a little, like she expected that answer but still hoped for something different. She stood. "So that's it." I nodded. "That's it." She walked toward the door. Stopped. Turned. "I never stopped loving you," she said. And for the first time in weeks I felt nothing. Not anger. Not sadness. Not love. Just nothing. She left without another word. I watched her walk down the steps and out to her car. The hoodie hung off her like it no longer fit. Like it belonged to someone else. She didn't look back. And I didn't want her to. A week passed. She didn't text again. Didn't show up. No more surprise visits. Just silence. Then, one morning I got an email. Not a call. Not a letter. Not even a voice memo. Just a subject line that hit like a punch. Division of items. That was it. No, hi. No, hope you're doing okay. No, I'm sorry for ruining our life. Just a spreadsheet. Furniture. Kitchenware. The TV from the den. 2 paintings. The espresso machine she never used. She had highlighted certain rows in yellow, apparently things she felt attached to. She even included the wedding china we never touched and the wine rack I built from scratch during one of those DIY weekends she used to gush about to her friends. Reading it didn't make me cry. It made me feel replaced, like our marriage had been reduced to a series of tabs, columns, and polite negotiations over who gets the coffee table. It was transactional, cold, efficient. I scrolled to the bottom of the document, half expecting to find some hidden note, a plea, anything. Nothing. Just her name in the top right corner. A calculated document from someone who used to know how I took my coffee and which side of the bed I slept on when I had a headache. I sat there for a long time, staring at the screen, listening to the quiet hum of the refrigerator in my brother's kitchen. Eventually, I opened a blank reply. I typed 2 sentences. Take whatever you want. Just leave the ring. I'll decide where it belongs. Then I hit send. And in that moment, something inside me clicked into place. Not closure, but clarity. She wasn't sorry. She wasn't mourning. She was organizing. Sorting through the ruins like she was curating a museum exhibit of a life she no longer wanted to claim. Could have argued. Could have contested half the items. I had every legal right. But I didn't care. Let her take the paintings. Let her take the overpriced blender. Let her take the flatware and the fancy cutting board she only used when guests were over. None of it mattered. What mattered had already been taken. And what remained wasn't worth fighting for. The next 2 weeks moved slowly. I stayed with Nate longer than I intended. Every time I said I'd find a hotel, he waved it off. Told me to stay as long as I needed. We didn't talk much about her. Not because he didn't care, but because he knew words weren't going to fix anything. Grief isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just sitting on a couch at 2 a.m. with a blanket over your legs, watching a documentary you don't care about, waiting for your mind to stop sprinting in circles. I went through phases. One night, I Googled how to make someone regret cheating. The next night, I looked up couples therapy, even though we were already past that. Some mornings, I'd wake up convinced I had imagined it all, that I could go home and we'd figure it out. Other mornings, I'd scroll through old photos and feel like I was watching someone else's life. But mostly, I just sat still. Not frozen. Just still. Then came the call from my lawyer. He said she wasn't contesting anything. Said she'd signed the paperwork without argument. That part stung more than I expected. No pushback. No begging. No dramatic "what have I done?" moment. Just a smooth signature and a digital timestamp. I remember the way my hand shook as I signed my copy. Even after everything, putting ink to paper felt like carving a name into stone. The end was quiet. Not with a bang, but with a cursor blinking at the bottom of a PDF. After the divorce was finalized, I drove upstate. My uncle left me a small cabin years ago. I never used it. Always said I'd take her there one summer, but we never made the time. Now it was mine. Just mine. No shared keys. No shared calendar invites. The place had no cell service. Just pine trees, a fireplace, and air so clean it made me dizzy. I stayed there alone for a week. Woke up when I wanted. Ate when I felt like it. Didn't answer to anyone. For the first time in months, I slept through the night without waking up in a sweat or checking my phone. I didn't dream about her. Didn't replay the betrayal on loop. I just existed. Felt like learning to breathe again. On the 5th day, I checked into a small cafe near the edge of town. The kind of place with mismatched mugs and hand-painted signs. I ordered coffee and took a seat by the window. A woman sat 2 tables over, sipping tea, scrolling through her phone. I didn't recognize her at first, but when she looked up, our eyes met. Amber, Michael's wife. I hadn't seen her since the party. I wasn't sure what to do. Wave? Look away? Pretend I didn't know who she was? But she stood, walked over and said, "You're Mark, right?" I nodded. "I just wanted to say thank you," she said. I raised an eyebrow. For what? For being honest. For not pretending it didn't happen. She asked if she could sit. I said yes. We didn't talk about pain. Didn't trade war stories. We talked about books, movies, places we'd meant to visit. No bitterness. No resentment. Just 2 people sitting across from each other, quietly realizing they weren't alone in the wreckage. When we finished our coffee, she smiled and said, "You know, it's kind of funny." "What is?" "I used to think no one else could possibly understand what I was feeling. But here you are. And it's like you get it without me having to explain." "I do," I said simply. Later that week, we ran into each other again. Then again. Eventually, we stopped calling it coincidence. She came to the cabin one weekend. We didn't sleep together. We didn't make promises. We just shared a porch swing and let the silence be kind instead of cruel. We were two people recovering from the same wound, not trying to fill each other's gaps, just letting each other exist without judgment. And that was enough. As for Jenna, I never saw her again. Never looked. No late-night profile checks. No curiosity about her new life. She made her choices. She rolled the ring away like it had no weight. And I picked it back up. Not to give it to someone else. Not yet. But to remind myself what it meant. What it once stood for. And what I would never give away again unless the person holding it knew exactly how to carry it. The papers were signed. No ceremony. No final words. Just digital ink and silence. A week later, I got an email from her. Not to apologize. Not to ask how I was. The subject line read, "Item pickup." Inside was a list. Dishes. Lamps. Even the record player she never used. She wanted her half. No mention of the dog we never got around to adopting. No question about how I was sleeping. Just division. So I replied with one sentence. Take whatever you want. Just leave the ring. She didn't respond. A few days later, her friend came by to collect the boxes. I didn't watch her pack. Didn't ask what she'd said about me. She left the ring in a little dish on the dresser, like it was a receipt for services rendered. I picked it up, turned it over in my hand. Felt nothing. That was when I knew. I was done reaching for what had already let go of me. The cabin saved me. No noise. No phone. Just pine trees and quiet air that didn't ask anything from me. That's where I found Amber again. Michael's wife. She reached out one afternoon. Thanked me for being honest. Said it helped her breathe.